Hi, my name's Steve Maher. I'm the ergonomics guy, and I have a case study for you today that I find is actually pretty interesting. And what I want to do is talk to you about what the problems were that I found when I visited this guy, and then what some of the potential options were to fix his problems and what we decided on, and then show you some after pictures to show you what it looked like once we were done. So let's just jump in and see what we found. So this is a guy that I visited a while ago. He was complaining about wrist and neck pain in sitting, and if you look, he's kind of in this hunched over position. He's in a really forward head position, and then also wrist pain because he's reaching up just a little bit when typing and putting a lot of pressure here on his wrists. So when he's sitting, he's complaining of neck and wrist pain. And then when he's standing to get relief, he's read that it's a good thing to do to stand up in the workstation. And when he's standing, he's complaining about low back pain because his back is, again, in this big curved position that puts a lot of stress right here. So there's a couple obvious things that we did. One was this chair doesn't really adjust, right? It's kind of a fixed chair. The armrests are big and bulky and way too high, and they kind of push him forward and out of the chair. The desk in sitting is way too high for him, so he's reaching up. So the keyboard is above his elbows, so he's reaching up all the time. And then the monitor is actually maybe just a little bit low, so he's kind of looking down into this monitor. And the thing is, he has a second monitor way over here. So anytime he wants to look at data on the second screen, he's got to turn his head almost 90 degrees to the left. And so that's putting a lot of stress on his neck too. And we see this a lot where people are trying to combine multiple things at once. And so the desk is too high for him when he's sitting, and the chair isn't offering very good support. And he's read somewhere that standing is good for him. So he's decided to stand in the workstation. So what he did is he simply stood up. And now the problem is that everything's even lower, right? So ideally, when you're standing, your shoulders are going to be relaxed. Your shoulders will be balanced over your hips. Your shoulders are at your side, and your elbow is bent about 90 degrees, and the keyboard should be just about belly button level, or about elbow height, with your forearms perpendicular to the floor, or parallel to the floor. Sorry about that. And so what you can see is happening here is he's reaching way down here to get to the keyboard, and then to type, he's got to extend his wrist. And if you try this right now at your desk or wherever you're watching this, just take your wrist and pull it back as far as it will go, and you can feel how hard you have to work, how hard you're using the muscles of your forearm to hold your wrist in that position. And then the other problem is you have two nerves on the side of your wrist, and if you're fully extended and you tend to put pressure into your wrist, that's going to cause numbness into your fingers. And then as far as his back is concerned, since his pelvis is actually rolled forward just a little bit here, and his spine is in this big C shape, and then his head, your head's a pretty big thing, right? It weighs as much as a bowling ball. That's a lot of torque, putting a lot of force actually into his low back as well. So, it's kind of weird that his back hurts when he's sitting. I'm sorry, his neck hurts when he's sitting and his back hurts when he's standing, but you can kind of see what's going on there. So if we have a situation like this, we'll think about creating a standing workstation. The first thing we think about is getting a better chair. So when he's sitting, we want to make sure that we have a chair that supports him in a good neutral posture, and then we think about creating a standing workstation. And there's a couple different ways to do it. So the first choice, first thing you think a lot of times is, let's just get them a standing desk, okay? And it's the way a standing desk is, they can replace the entire unit, or they can replace the surface that you already have with height adjustable legs. And what they'll do is they'll go from a sitting position to a standing position at the push of a button. So you press the button, the entire work surface comes way up here, and now you can sit or stand, and then you press the button, everything comes back down. And so you can work in a neutral position, either sitting or standing. The thing about standing desks is that it's kind of invasive to put them in. You have to tear apart the desk to put the new ones in. A lot of times you lose the file cabinets that are under here, underneath the desk. So you lose your storage space. And the other thing is they can be fairly expensive. So a lot of companies will balk at a adjustable height desk. What have become much more popular lately are these desk conversion units, and there's different styles. I think the most popular is this very desk. And what it is basically it's a spring-loaded platform that sits on top of the desk. And here's the base. So it comes out of the box and just plop it on the desk and you're ready to go. And what you do is you pinch these little buttons on the side and it activates these spring-loaded legs and you just bring it up to elbow level. So when you're standing, you can bring the keyboard up to your belly button, your shoulders are relaxed, arms bent about 90 degrees, and that can release stress on your shoulders, allows you to stand in a much more neutral position and take stress off your low back. The problem with these is that when you're sitting, since they sit on the top of the desk and go up, they're typically too high. And you can actually see this, that her elbow, get rid of all those marks, her elbow is actually below the level of the desk. And most desks are about 30 inches high. Most sitting elbows are about 27. So you're already got a 3-inch discrepancy. Now you add more of a discrepancy and you're going to end up putting more tension on your wrists, or you're going to elevate your shoulders even more. So these work with taller people or people with desks that we can get down so that the keyboard's in the right position when you're sitting. And then you can come up into standing. But they're an alternative to a standing desk. What we ended up choosing is sort of a combination of the two. This is called an Ergotron WorkFit S. And the way this works is, let me get my tool here. It mounts on the edge of the desk right here. There's a clamp under here, so it just screws right onto the desk. This pole houses a big spring, and then the spring then holds 2 monitors and a little platform for your stuff and a keyboard tray here. And the way it works is you slide it up to standing level or you slide it down to sitting level, and you can move the entire unit up and down so that you can sit or stand. And it's pretty versatile because it doesn't take a lot to install it. You just screw this clamp onto the front edge of your desk, then you attach the monitors right here, and then the whole thing will slide up and down. And it's a pretty cool little unit. And what that looks like in use is this. So here he is sitting, and what we did is we got him a better chair. So now the chair, it's still maybe leaned back just a little bit, but it's opening up these angles a little bit so he's a little more relaxed, right? He's not hunched over like he is here. And then we installed the Ergotron. And so in a sitting position, his keyboard and his touchpad right here, that's a touchpad that he uses for his mouse. He changed that out after we saw him, are down closer to elbow level. So he's kind of relaxed here. He's reaching just a little bit, but he can certainly slide in and keep the keyboard here so he's not reaching up like he is before, and he doesn't have that compression on his wrists. We also got him a different style of keyboard, and I'll be doing a video on different keyboards here in a little while. But the idea is now he can position the keyboard to a comfortable level so when he's sitting, he's not putting so much pressure on his wrists. We're also able to adjust the monitors, okay? They sit right here. They can go up and down, so if he wants them higher or lower, we can move them up and down. But the point is that when he's sitting, he's in a much more neutral position, and so he's not putting as much stress on his back and his wrists, or his neck and his wrists. Then when he's standing, he slides the entire unit all the way up to elbow level. So here's your keyboard platform right here. He brought that all the way up to his elbows so they're nice and straight, and then he adjusted the monitors so he's looking straight away. So this was our answer for this guy, was to get him a better chair so when he's sitting, he's in a good supported neutral position, because even though you should be standing in the workstation if you can, the guidelines that are coming out, the Cornell guidelines that came out recently said 20 minutes of standing, 20 minutes of sitting, 8 minutes of standing, and 2 minutes of moving every half hour. So even though he has the ability to stand, standing is a lot harder. It tends to be a little less productive and not always as efficient as sitting. So we got him a really good supportive chair when he's sitting, and then gave him the ability to bring things down to hold him in a neutral posture when he's sitting, and then easily move up into a neutral posture when he's standing too. So that's how we solved this guy's problem of neck pain with sitting and back pain with standing. And when I was in the clinic working with my patients, I would always tell them it shouldn't hurt to work, and if it does, have somebody help you out and get it fixed before a small problem becomes a debilitating injury. So if you have questions about how to set up your workstation, or if you're having pain in your workstation, we can certainly help. Please contact us and we can set up a video conference like this. We can do a remote assessment where we can come by and visit you live and in person. But there's a lot of ways we can help you set up your workstation to work as comfortably and productively as possible and minimize the risk of injury. So thank you very much for your time. And again, if you have any questions at all, please contact us.